Hey guys, welcome to the Entertainment Now podcast. My name is Nick.
I'm Ian.
And of course, like always, all of these videos are always up on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a comment down below, all that YouTubey, jazzy kind of stuff. And I don't know why I said jazzy there, but
Because it's jazz, man. It's
it's
jazz.
jazzy, man. I don't know why I snapped my fingers for jazz, but
Because the '60s like beatniks and
just get like jazz hands or something like that.
well, that's different. Jazz hands are different than the beatniks, like because the beatniks used to like instead of clapping they would snap their fingers.
Did they? Because they were beatniks. But
Yeah,
and of course, if you're listening to the podcast on your favorite podcatcher, go on Apple Podcasts, go on Spotify, whoever you use, drop us a review on there because we always like to read reviews and
yeah,
well, just as long as they're good reviews. But
yeah. I just learned how to read last year, so I like to
yeah.
put that new skill to use.
We were actually before we started recording, we were talking about sports, one of Ian's favorite topics.
One of my
Right.
least favorite topics.
We were talking about how bad Detroit sports teams are.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Uh,
Well, we were talking about the Lions had a good last half of their season this past year, and I was just saying I was curious to see how they do next year.
yeah, they're I was definitely so I've been a Lions fan my entire life, so I've seen them win exactly one playoff game in my fucking life. But I've seen them suck a lot of
Right,
my
right,
life. And they I think last season was probably one of the most enjoyable seasons
right, because it was one
I've
of their
had
best seasons they've
as a
had in a long
Lions fan. Yeah, because they, like I said before we start recording, they finished the season strong.
time.
They finished the season 8-2 or something like that. But the first half of the season, they sucked ass. They were the worst team in the NFL for the first 6 or 7, 8 weeks, whatever it was. But
Right, right.
they definitely finished strong. I definitely have some high hopes for them going into next season. We'll see what happens. But every season's a whole different thing, when it comes to the
Yeah,
NFL, because you lose so many players off of every team every year. So
right,
we'll see.
right.
We'll see how it works out. I actually have a lot of hope for the Tigers too. Eventually, I think they get a lot of really good young players. I know you are not a sports ball fan, but out of all sports, you'll probably watch baseball more than any other
Yeah,
sport.
yeah. Because I actually don't mind baseball. It's just
Back in the day, I used to drag Ian along to quite a few Tigers games.
yeah, I like going
Back
to the
when the
games.
Tigers were
It wasn't it
absolutely,
was it wasn't hard to drag me to a Tigers game. I mean, it was probably easier to drag me to a Tigers game than it was just like a party or something.
yeah. But that was back when the Tigers were absolutely horrendous.
Yeah,
At,
and the ticket prices reflected that, which is why we went.
yes, yeah, because that was back when you could. I think it was like $9 for
Yeah,
the bleachers,
$8 or $9.
and it came with a drink, and it came with a hot dog. So it wasn't a bad price at all.
Well, Drake, it was a soda. They
Yeah,
weren't
yeah, that's what I
they
meant.
weren't giving
Yeah.
away beers. Is my point.
Pop. When I say drink, I mean pop,
Right,
because I don't really drink. But
right,
yeah, that was back in the day, man, when they were losing like 120 games a season. They were fucking
right.
horrendous. But it was great to go hang out on like a Sunday afternoon and sit in the sun with like 500 other fans because there's like nobody in the stadium.
Yeah,
But we saw some great comebacks, though, didn't we, Ian?
we saw one of the greatest.
Yeah, it was the second to last game of the season, and
Yep.
if the Tigers lost, they would have tied for the worst season in baseball history. And they were getting their ass handed to them. Do you remember? It wasn't like
Yeah,
7-1 or something like that.
it was eight 7-1, and they came back and won 8-7.
Yeah, and
And
it was like I want to say it was like the probably the 6th or 7th inning. We were like, "Fuck this!" I remember getting up. Corey went to the game with us, our friend Corey, and we got up. We were walking around the stadium. I think we walked over, stood over like the smoking section because I smoked back then, and we like smoked a couple cigarettes, and then like the Tigers scored a couple runs. We were like, hey, this might actually be, not a blowout. I figured they were still going to fucking lose, which I thought it was like, hey, cool. We're at the game where they tied the record. And then, they came back and won it in the bottom of the ninth with a steal at home by the guy. Do you remember who stole home to win the game?
Remember.
I don't remember what his first name was, but his last name was Sanchez because we used to call him Dirty Sanchez.
Right.
And he ended up being, I believe he was the first player in baseball to be suspended for steroids.
Really?
Yeah, like the next season or the season within the next couple of seasons, he was like suspended for the entire season for steroid use.
Huh.
Whatever. On that day, he won the game for the Tigers.
He was a star that day.
And it was crazy too because we had so we bought these bleacher seats, which was up in right field, I think is where the Pepsi bleachers were. But we like snuck down and we sat, I don't know if you remember, but we were sitting like the second row up right next to the Tigers dugout when that game ended.
On the third base line, yeah.
And they were shooting off fireworks and people were going fucking crazy like they had just won the World Series.
Right, yeah.
It was wild. It was a great finish to the game. Probably one of the best finishes to a Tigers game I'd seen in a long time.
Yeah, and it was just fun because we were there, and it was
yeah,
it was exciting because, like I said, they came back from a very, very big deficit.
Yeah, they should not, and they were playing against the Minnesota Twins, who the Twins won the division that year. They're actually a really good team, but in like getting ready for the playoffs, they were resting like all their good players, and they were still beating the shit out of the Tigers. But the Tigers came back and won. It was just one of those great games that I'll always remember.
Yeah.
But I managed to drag you. I drug you along to a whole bunch of different sporting events.
I went to a bunch of baseball games and one hockey game.
Well, we went to the Colorado. We went to the Colorado Detroit game. I drug you along to that.
That was the hockey game, and then you and Mandy took me to one U of M football game.
Did you go to a U of M?
Just one, yeah.
So that's the only football game you've ever been to.
Yep.
And then basketball, I never got you to go to any basketball games.
No, never got to a basketball game. Just baseball, a lot. Hockey that one time, and then one football game.
Oh, and you went with me to a Detroit City FC game.
Oh yeah, soccer. That's like baseball though. It's not much of an effort to get me to go watch something like that.
Yeah. But Detroit City FC and DCFC, they got the whole like experience of that game is fucking wild. We didn't stand in the standing section though the entire game. Didn't we go sit down at halftime? Is Ian, you're like old and couldn't stand there?
No, we stood the whole game.
Did we? Oh, good.
Yeah, both. I think I went 2 or 3 times, and every time we always stood.
Yeah. No, that was always good. It's just a wild experience to go to. If you're a soccer fan, I highly recommend DCFC games. But the whole like march to the stadium is really cool. And don't go if you're like a smoke allergy or anything like that, because they shoot off flares the entire fucking game.
Yeah, smoke bombs and stuff.
That was good times though.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. I like soccer. I like football.
Oh no. Well, the FUTBOL football, that's South American. It's just football is what it is.
Football, yeah, I know.
I call it real football.
Right.
Because you play it with your feet. It's not that's not American football, which is like hand egg ball.
Right. Egg ball. That's what they should call it. Egg ball. I like that.
Hand egg ball. Yeah. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about, I guess, sports is entertainment, but we don't really talk about it a whole lot on the show because Ian is I'm gonna point over to Ian on the screen here, because this guy here is not a fan. But we started talking about this because I'm watching the Red Wings play right now, but while we record, and they are losing. So
yeah, as per usual.
Yeah. Well, they actually, like I said before we start recording, they actually have they have a really good team. They're obviously not going to make the playoffs, but
Right.
I think the Red Wings. Actually, I think all the Detroit sports teams are like trending in the correct direction.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, they all have a lot of really good young talent. Um, I think the Pistons have some really great talent.
Right.
I think they have a really bright future. The Tigers, we'll see what they've got some good young talent. We'll see what if that talent can actually develop in anything. Because a lot of their good young players have gotten hurt over the last couple of years. They got a few really great young pitchers, but last year I think 2 or 3 of them went down with elbow injuries and need Tommy John surgery. So that's not good. They'll
No,
be
it's
out
not
for
good
at
at
least
all.
a year because of that.
Right, right.
So like typical Tigers, we'll see if anything actually develops from it.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
on to more of what I intended to talk about, since I just wasted like 15 minutes talking about sports. The
It was a
Oscars.
waste.
What's that?
I said it was a waste. I was bored the whole time.
Biz off. The Oscars just happened within the last couple of weeks. I actually want to talk about it last week on the show, but we were talking about music, so it didn't really kind of fit in the theme of the show. But I've been on the or have the mindset for the last probably several years that the Oscars are really overrated, and
Mhm.
I typically don't enjoy watching them, mainly because I don't really agree with who wins the awards, uh, or even a lot of cases who's nominated for the awards. And I kind of still had that issue this year, but I thought it was a really great show. I think it was probably one of the best Oscar shows in a very, very long time.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's my problem with. I've always seen award shows as just like ego stroking for for Hollywood and all that stuff. Um, and that, and then of course the last few years it's either um what I consider to be like tone deafness to certain things in terms of uh race or gender or whatever. But then it and
And there was still some of
also
that this year, but
but there's also an extreme on the other side where it's like virtue signaling on, so you get virtue signaling for some on some ends of it, and then you get tone deafness on the other, and it's like, and then everyone just bitches about those two things the whole time,
yeah.
or it's just, I don't know, it's, to me it's just ego stroking. That's the biggest
I
problem I
I
have with
I didn't
award
I
shows in
will
general.
I generally agree with you when it comes to the Oscars. I didn't have that feeling this year.
Yeah.
I will say that I thought it was really comical that James Cameron decided not to attend the Oscars this year
Okay.
because he wasn't nominated for Best Director.
Yeah.
He was pissed because he wasn't nominated, so he didn't show up.
Yeah.
Um, who else did? Tom Cruise didn't show up either.
Okay.
I believe that was also because something with that he wasn't nominated for something. I don't know if it was because he wasn't nominated or he didn't feel like Top Gun Maverick got enough nominations, but he didn't show up either. Uh, it
I
was
still
really
haven't
cool.
seen that.
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, I still haven't
It's a
seen it.
fucking fantastic movie, man.
Yeah.
I went in. I when I went to saw when I saw it, I had rather low expectations,
Uh-huh.
and I was really blown away by how good it was. It really is a good movie. It does a really good job of capturing a lot of that nostalgia stuff,
Right.
but in a good way. It's not a like over the top. I know uh, people have issues with a lot of like the nostalgia films that have come out over the last several years, but they did a really good job with it.
I think that's just uh I don't have a problem with nostalgia films. I don't have a problem with bringing in legacy characters, and I don't have a problem with uh what they call fan service, because if you're telling a story and that story requires that, then it's not that. Just because you do a sequel to a movie that's 30 some years old, you're not I mean, it could be that. It could be just a money grab on nostalgia. But if it's done well, it's fine. If the story is good, the
Yeah.
same thing with like Star Wars. You're like, oh, they're just gonna bring back legacy characters to the fanboys. If it's part of the story, these characters
It,
aren't dead.
yeah.
Use them. I don't fucking understand why people bitch so much about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't get. I just don't get it. Anyway,
I thought Jimmy Kimmel absolutely fucking killed it, and I am not a Jimmy Kimmel fan.
yeah,
I thought his opening monologue was great. I thought the way he brought up the Will Smith, Chris Rock slap and all that stuff last year, for the most part was tasteful, but he still went after them like I hoped he would. Uh,
uh,
he had
who
some
went
very
after who? Will Smith or after Chris Rock?
Will Smith and Jada. It was maybe some of it was a little uncalled for, but he pulled no punches with it. And I thought that was great, and I thought that's exactly what he should have done.
Yeah.
It was great seeing Jamie Lee Curtis win. She talked about her parents, and you know, she's done a lot of good stuff over her career, and it was
Absolutely.
great to see her finally get recognized.
Yeah. No, I agree. And in a way that's not just a lifetime achievement award kind of thing.
No, and everything was everything everywhere all at once. I hear great fucking reviews about it. I still haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, me
Uh,
neither. I do want to. I've heard it's
I do want to see it. I mean, I thought it was really cool that the Oscars did something that I wish the Grammys would do, and that is show every category. Like, I don't care how long
yeah.
the fucking show is going to be. This year was the first time in years that they did all 23 categories during the broadcast.
Right, right.
Like I said, that's something that the Grammys really should do, even though the Grammys would have to be like, I don't know, 5 fucking hours long.
Right.
But there's so many great categories, especially like if you're a music fan, if you're a rock fan, what's the point of watching the Grammys when you're not going to see any of the rock categories?
Right.
They show
Yeah,
what
no,
the
I agree.
what the big popular categories are going to be, and then that's it. I thought during the Oscars, Lady Gaga's performance was absolutely fucking incredible. She took a song. I don't remember what movie the song was in. I think it was. I don't know if it was the song in Maverick. It was a very, very different song than what she sang it as at the Oscars. She did a very stripped down version of it. I think it was just her and a guitar player, or her and a piano player. I don't remember what the backing was. And like, she removed all of her makeup. She was just in a t-shirt and jeans. Did a great performance. She absolutely fucking killed it. I think she kind of proved once again that I think she's one of the greatest singers really in music history. The way she sings.
Wow.
Rihanna's performance was fucking fantastic also. Even though neither one of them won the Oscar for best song, I thought both of them deserved it. There was a part where they kind of did a little short thing for Chadwick Boseman, which I thought was really, really kind of touching.
Mhm.
And then John Travolta got up there and introduced the in memoriam, or whatever, for the section for all the people that died over the previous year, and that was really emotional. He kind of did this little short homage to Olivia Newton-John. He got emotional during it. It was a really great part of the night, and of course seeing Kwon win an
Yeah.
Oscar, and Brendan Fraser win an Oscar. If you were told me like 1993 that two characters from Encino Man were going to win Oscars one day,
Right.
I would have told you you're out of your fucking mind.
Well, especially since what's his name pretty much retired from acting after that, shortly
Well,
after
both
that.
of them, both
Well, I mean,
neither.
Brendan Fraser managed to he kept his career going into the 2000s, but
Yeah. Well, there for a while, Brendan Fraser was one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. When he
Right,
was doing the Mummy movies and all that stuff, he was huge. And then he got blacklisted from Hollywood.
yeah,
But yeah, Kwon, it was great. There was this really like touching like embrace with him and Harrison Ford, which I thought was really fucking cool. Uh,
yeah.
you know, to it was how many
Indian
what
short
year
round,
yeah, what year was the Temple of Doom released? 80
1985.
85. Yeah.
85?
Yes.
85?
Well,
That's what you said.
well, you were talking, so I didn't want. I was trying to not
Oh,
interrupt you, but
gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
85.
85. Yeah. Well, the same year as Goonies, too.
Yeah, and that was really cool that Kwon even said something about Goonies during his acceptance speech.
Did he?
Said something
Yeah.
about like Goonies for life or something like that. I remember, or Goonies brothers. He was talking about somebody else from the movie that I guess another one of the guys in Goonies end up being his agent or something, or his lawyer or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the connection was, but there's a lot of really cool stuff that happened during the Oscars. Even though it wasn't long, I think it was like over 3 hours long.
Yeah.
It was outside of of a lot of the categories, which I really didn't care about. There were some really great uh performances and speeches and things like that.
Cool.
I
Yeah,
will
like
say,
I said, just
oh, go
the
ahead.
virtue signaling is really the biggest part that I have. Well, that, like I said, and on the opposite side, it's like they can't even figure out if they're virtuous or completely like out of touch. And like I said, I don't care about red carpets or any of that stuff because it's all just pomp and circumstance, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
like I said, I'm interested in little things like that, and of course, who wins what, you know.
yeah. But that's the crazy thing is, so there's 23 awards that were handed out.
Oh,
Everything, everywhere, all at once won 7 of the 23,
yeah.
which I thought was, I mean, they were nominated for 11, so they could have won even more. But yeah, 7 of
Right.
the 23 awards is huge for that movie. That's
Oh,
what, what's up?
didn't Return of the King win like 10 or awards in one year?
Did it? I thought it
Yeah, I
was
think
only like
so.
4.
No, I
I
think it
know
was like
they
9
were
or 10.
nominated. They were nominated for a bunch, but I don't think they won.
I'll take a look real quick while you're talking.
But there was one, and I didn't even catch this when the ceremony was happening. It wasn't until after the case, after it was over, that someone brought this up. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But there was one. There was like best short. So there was. What they did was, because there were so many categories, they paired up 2 at a time, and they did.
Uh-huh.
So if you came up to present for one category, you stayed up there and presented for both of them.
Mhm.
So there was best live action short film and best animated short film. So I don't remember which one went first because I don't remember which one was which, but the first one they get up there, and it was a woman, 2 ladies that won, that did that movie. The first lady gets up and she speaks for like 40 some seconds. And then the next lady, which is like, I guess she was like the first Indian woman to win an Oscar, gets up to the mic and they played the music. They wouldn't even let her speak.
Yeah.
And then the next category comes up, and it's 2 white guys that win. The first guy speaks for like 40 some seconds, and then the second guy speaks for like 20 some seconds. And they don't cut the second guy off, which I don't think was intentional, but it does look bad that the first
Right.
Indian woman, and she was able to do her acceptance speech after the Oscars were over.
Right.
But
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the tone deafness I'm talking about.
I don't think, like I said, I don't think it was done intentionally. At least I hope not. I mean, yeah, that's I think that would go against kind of everything that the Oscars has kind of fought against over the last several years. And I do agree with you that there is a lot of like virtue signaling that the Oscars do,
Right.
and I almost think to a certain extent they kind of have to. because there for a long time, like there was a lot of criticism that if you were a minority, you weren't going to fucking win.
Right, right.
Like unless there
Well,
was
I
some
get
kind
that.
of
I get that. But that's again, that's like the tone deafness side of it. But it's like you can't do this pendulum swing of of extremes. You got to try to find some balance
yeah, and
too. You know.
I think there's a lot less of that this year. I think they did manage to find a good balance. There's a lot of diversity. And also I think there wasn't diversity for diversity's sake.
Right.
I think there
That's
was
another thing.
diversity
Yeah.
because there was a diverse group of people that made some really great fucking movies.
Right. Just so Return of the King won 11 out of 12 awards. They
Oh
were
wow.
nominated for 12. They won 11.
Wow. So I'm assuming there's probably 23 categories back then. I guess they've
I
had
would
the same
imagine they
categories
would
for
have
a long
had
time.
the same or less, or yeah, the same or less, because usually they add a category. Well, I guess though they might delete a category here or there too, but I don't know.
I might have had those categories wrong. Now that I'm looking at the names of people that won it, I'll have to go back and check for sure. But I know it was like back to back categories where like they cut off the one lady and let the white guy speak. But I'm
Right,
assuming
right,
it was just like a time thing. Like, but I don't know because you would think that if they like split because they know how much time each segment's going to be. If you split it in half and give each category equal amount of time,
right.
there should be enough time for both people to speak. So I don't know. I don't know what their reasoning behind it was, but I hope it wasn't done intentionally.
I mean, to be fair, I also don't think acceptance speeches have to be more than a quick thank you to for the award and a quick thank you to your family, and then move on.
Yeah.
There you don't need anything more than that. It's just you start to border on like rambling and or preaching,
I mean, and that's
like
what
Michael Moore.
a majority of the speeches are just, I just want to
Thank
thank
you.
all these people and this and that. There were a couple that were like not save the whales, but
Uh,
something along those lines. You know,
Save the whales, save the snails.
save the snail trails.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, I just thought they did a really good job with that. I was uh that's as somebody that like to be honest, like we're going through the list of like movies for best picture, everything everywhere all at once I've never seen. I haven't
Uh,
seen All Quiet on the Western Front. I haven't
you've
seen the
seen
new
a
Avatar.
version of it though,
I've seen
right?
them, yeah, but not this version of it.
Right.
I haven't seen the new Avatar movie. Uh, I haven't seen Elvis. I haven't seen any of these movies. I think Maverick is the only movie that was up for Best Picture that I'd seen. So I
I haven't
wasn't even
seen any
coming.
of them.
Yeah, so I haven't. So it's not like I was coming to the to watch the Oscars rooting for anyone. I had no rooting interest in
Right.
really
Right.
any of them. But like I said, overall, I think it was a really great year. I think it was a kind of a comeback for the Oscars. I haven't seen what the ratings and stuff were for it, but I thought it was really good. But that's not what we came here to talk about, right, Ian?
Oh no.
So we had so we're going to talk about independent cinema and really kind of what has happened to independent cinema because it's gone.
It is. It's gone. It was so prevalent in the 90s. I mean, hell, half of the directors and writers and actors that are huge stars now got their start because of independent cinema in the
Yeah.
1990s. Uh,
But what do you think was a big contributing factor to his demise?
the part of it, and just a part of it, but a part of it I think has to do with ballooning budgets in blockbuster films because blockbuster films are making more money.
Yeah.
They're making,
Well, they've always made more money.
right, but no, not making more money than what's out there, but like making more than they used to before.
Yeah.
You know, uh,
I would say the
you didn't
blockbuster
have
films
billion
take up
dollar
a
movies,
bigger percentage.
right? But you didn't have billion dollar movies in the 90s. You didn't really even
Yeah.
have them in the early 2000s. You didn't start getting them until the early 2000s.
It
Because
wasn't. I mean, there was a couple in the '90s.
no, yeah, they had $1 billion years later, not in their first run.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even Star Wars and Back to the Future never hit $1 billion in their theatrical runs. But movies were starting to come close to making billions of dollars in their theatrical runs in the late '90s and early 2000s. Uh, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, for example, Return of the King, because I was looking it up, made just over $1 billion uh, in 2003. But I have a feeling that that's a big part of it because if you've got studios that are focusing on these big budget franchise films are another thing that's probably put the nail in the coffin of independent cinema. You're not going to the film festivals to pick up these movies because your budget's going to be your money's going to be put into um, your franchise films, your Harry Potters, your Lord of the Rings, your Matrix,
Yeah.
your Star Treks, your Star Wars, not so much Star Trek, but Star Wars, uh, Transformers, because Transformers was around that time. Uh, Fast and Furious, which arguably kind of started as a slightly independent film, the first one, but at least not a huge blockbuster type film.
Yeah.
But that's where the money started going, and it's not a bad comic book movies. Comic book movies are the other thing. Um, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't have a problem with any of those films. I know Martin Scorsese does, but I don't
Yeah.
because I enjoy those
He
films,
has
and
a
I don't.
huge problem with those
Yeah,
movies.
I don't have a problem with those films even being considered like film because they are. They're the same amount of effort and work is put into those, if not more, as you put into a Goodfellas or Godfather.
Yeah.
Just because it's about superheroes and space, talking raccoons and stuff doesn't take away from the quality of what you're watching. It might to some, but as if you're looking at it subjectively or objectively, I mean, you you can't argue that there's still an art form. It's still an art form, you
Yeah.
know. So, but
I do want to say real quick though, Ian.
yeah,
There was $1 billion movie in the '90s, Titanic.
Titanic, yeah, but that was near the end, and it was
Yeah, '97.
mainly because they kept it in theaters for 3 fucking years,
They made it was 10 months,
and then they brought it back the next year.
but in its 10-month run, it made over $1 billion.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that,
Yeah.
but still, it was 97 is the beginning of the 2000s are just around the corner.
Yeah. They
Um,
yeah. So in the
and the
10 months,
independent films I was talking about were like 91, 92, 93, 94.
I know, I know. I was just saying though, in 10 months, it made 600 million domestically and 1.2 billion internationally.
Right. And that's international. I was even looking more like, I guess, more domestic. But anyway,
Yeah.
uh,
But
but
that
as a
was the only
result of
one.
that, but see, even if that's the first one, it's still that's not a trend. Once it starts to become a trend,
Yeah. It
because
didn't
then you
become a
have
trend until the 2010s.
well, no, because you had episode one when it came out in '99, so that was pushing $1 billion.
Yeah.
And then Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, all those 2001, 2002, 2003. That's another Star Wars, Attack of the Clones. 2005 was Revenge of the Sith. All those movies are $1 billion movies.
Yeah.
So so 97.
Once the 2010s hit and you had like Avatar and then all the superhero movies, it was like
Right,
you had
right,
multiple $1 billion movies every year.
right. Exactly. That's what I was
That's what I was
referring
talking
to.
about the
But
trend.
yeah, so but I think that's because and to be fair, there were independent films that were being produced and being put out there in the early 2000s too, but not a lot.
Yeah.
But they're all but gone now. And yeah, I mean you do see occasionally like but they're lower budget films more than they're independent films. Like a Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks, which I really want
Which
to
I
see
still
again.
need to see.
Yeah. I'd consider that technically an independent film, but really it's just a lower budget film because it's got a big star in it,
Yeah.
you know. And it is essentially a remake of a British film anyway. I think it's a
Yeah.
British film. British or some communities
But there
do.
was a lot of those independent films in the 90s that had, a big star in them.
Sometimes, but there was a lot of them that didn't. We're talking like Clerks and things like that. Um, Swingers. Who had heard of John Favreau or Vince Vaughn before Swingers?
Yeah.
And now, John Favreau is one of the biggest names in Hollywood. I mean,
Yeah.
he's doing everything.
What year
Um,
did Swingers come out?
95, I think.
90, was it 95?
It was either 94 or 95.
So I'd heard of John Favreau before, but
I hadn't. I know he'd been in stuff.
well, didn't PCU come out before that?
Let's take a
Or
look.
was it after?
Let's find out. PCU 94.
94 is when PCU came out.
Yep.
So, and he played Gutter. So,
Right.
John Favreau will always be Gutter to me.
Of course. Well, he's the guy who's saving Star Wars for me.
Well, he's the reason why the Marvel Cinematic Universe exists.
It exists exactly.
So,
Yeah. Swingers was actually 96. So,
okay,
but
that's
still,
what
I
I was
mean,
thinking about.
John Favreau wasn't like a household name, and Gutter was
No,
hardly like the main character of the film.
no. So he was in really well. He was in Rudy too. Duh, I forgot about that. Rudy was one of the first films he did. He played D-Bob.
Yeah, who was
which
that?
was
93.
Which is Rudy's like roommate or friend in that movie.
Yeah.
That was 93. And they played Gutter in PCU, which I love. PCU. It's one of my favorite movies, even though it's probably not a great movie.
No, no.
Then he was in Batman Forever, and then he was in Swingers.
Who was he in Batman Forever?
It just says assistant. It was his role. So
Oh, okay.
so he had a nameless position, a nameless role.
And that was 95.
Yeah. And then
So
he did
that's what I'm
Swingers.
talking. But Vince Vaughn, no one ever heard of Vince Vaughn. Not that
No.
he's a big name right now, but he was for a while.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Who would they be without independent cinema?
And where would they be had it not been for Robin Williams?
True, but I mean that's my point. It's like Good Will Hunting, for all its polish, is still an independent film for the time period.
Yeah.
It was not made by a studio; it was made independently and then bought by a studio. Nowadays, there is a slight market for independent film, but it's the movies usually find on Netflix or Hulu, or that's who's picking up these smaller films, and it does work. I mean, and I'm okay with that, but you know, you're never going to have that experience of going to the theater to see a film like that if it's only going to be picked up by streaming services, which I guess it's out there and it's making money that way.
I think like streaming services has had a huge negative effect on independent cinema.
You think because they were buying all those movies up? You think?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Very
Because
possible.
they're no longer independent. They're being bought up by whoever, or
Well, I mean that was always
Netflix
the case. And Miramax and all that was buying up Clerks and Mallrats, or not Mallrats, but Clerks and Good Will Hunting and things like that. And, but
we won't see. We'll never see independent cinema like that again.
No, and it's sad. It really is sad. I think we're losing something there.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess you never know. But if things trend the way they keep going, I think you're right. I don't think we'll ever see that again.
But there's so many
happy
people.
To be surprised,
Yeah. There's so many people. There's so many big, actors, directors. They got their start in those movies.
Right.
Really kind of cut their teeth in those movies. And now maybe they won't get those same opportunities because they don't have that same career path to go down.
Right. Well, the pool of up and coming directors and stuff might be thinner, and if you're getting these actors and directors into these if they're getting lucky enough to get opportunities and to make big movies for big studios,
Yeah.
are they going to be able to bring nuance to them? Because, you know, take Iron
Probably
Man,
not.
for example, because Jon Favreau came from independent filmmaking as a director, he was able to make basically a pulpy comic book movie have some real heart to it because
Yeah.
he understood that. He understood how to get the nuance of performances and do things with lower budgets and all that
He
that
made it
you
work.
wouldn't get from yeah to what you wouldn't get from somebody who's never had that experience.
Yeah.
They might be able to make a great movie, but over time you're going to start losing the nuance of
Yeah.
things potentially.
Uh, I did want to say real quick, you brought up Vince Vaughn. The other
Yeah.
connection Vince Vaughn has is Vince Vaughn was also in Rudy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played Jamie
That's
O'Hare.
probably how they became friends because Vince Vaughn and John Favreau were friends.
Yeah.
They did Swingers together. They did Made together. I
Yeah.
think there's a couple, maybe another one or two.
Yeah. But I forgot Vince Vaughn. He was actually credited as Vincent Vaughn in
Oh,
in Rudy. It was like one of his very first movie, like first or second movie he ever made.
yeah. I'm not a big fan of Vince Vaughn, to be completely honest with you. The only movie of his I like is Dodgeball.
Oh, Wedding Crashers is fucking hilarious, man.
It's funny, but
Oh
I
my
think
god,
that
it's hilarious.
it's
And I don't even.
I still
I generally don't even like movies like that. And it's a
yeah,
great movie.
yeah. I'm a Dodgeball guy. Like I think just his the humor and the way his delivery is in that film is
Yeah,
funny as hell. So
he's made some good movies over the years.
yeah. Made some stinkers too.
Oh, he was in Hacksaw Ridge also, which is a fucking fantastic movie.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Yeah, it's a good movie. That's the movie where the guy was, I think it was World War II, where he
Yeah,
was a conscientious objector, refused to carry a
yeah.
gun, and he saved a whole bunch of people's lives.
That was Andrew Garfield was the star of that one, right?
Maybe sounds
Yeah,
about right.
I think so.
Maybe it was directed by Mel Gibson.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll have to
Mel
click on
Gibson's
it
a good
here.
director. He's just also a
He just doesn't
racist
like
and a
Jews.
he's
Like,
a racist and he's a religious zealot.
oh,
Not a
you're
big fan of
right.
women either.
Yeah, well, he is in some ways, but not in others.
Uh, yeah, he's a lover of them in a sexual way,
Yeah,
but he doesn't have much respect for them. That's I
yeah.
guess that's the
And you're right. Andrew Garfield wasn't that. I forgot about that.
I think he's the main character, the main
He
actor.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it, but
No, it's a great movie. It is a great movie. Um, but yeah, I just don't know. I don't know where. I guess the way I look at it is, and this will never happen, is if you are one of the big movie companies,
mm,
um, let's say you're Disney, why not take some of the, like, you're making $1 billion movies every year. Why not take some of that money and invest in independent cinema?
right,
I'm not saying buy it and make them yourself. Like, just invest to make the entire movie industry better.
yeah.
You know,
Well, because they don't care about better or
they don't.
worse.
They don't care.
They just it's bottom line money.
Yeah.
They will if you find something that's legitimately good and makes money, they will throw money at that all day long because it makes money.
Yeah.
But they're not going to go for good if it makes money, and they'll throw money at bad all day long too, as long as it
Yeah.
does make money. So, Transformers as an example.
But I feel like you're not getting a lot of those, like, kind of art kind of movies that you
Yeah,
used to get.
right. Well,
I mean, I'm sure
everything
I'm sure
everywhere
they're
all
still
at
getting
once
made.
is everything everywhere all at once is and it's kind of an independent film in a sense, at least in the terms of it not having a huge budget for what it is. I mean, granted, it's got big stars in it, so I mean,
Does
No
it?
question.
I guess it does. It's got Jamie Lee Curtis in there, and
Michelle Yeoh, she's
yeah,
huge. Not just here, but in I mean, her start was Hong Kong
yeah.
as a Hong Kong martial artist, and hell, she's
Well,
a Bond girl.
yeah, I guess it's true. But I mean, I guess it is kind of. I mean, it's an A24 movie, and A24 is independent.
Right, right.
But I mean, it
Um,
still had a. I'm trying to look and see what the budget was on it. Uh, it says the budget was between 14 and 25 million.
yeah. So I wouldn't call that necessarily independent. I call it low budget.
Yeah,
A24 is good at doing like lower budget, higher quality but low budget films.
yeah,
Same with like Blumhouse. Blumhouse is the same thing. They do obviously mostly horror, but low budget but higher quality. Getting the most out of a budget, having a studio backup, but with low budgets. I mean, uh, the last three Halloween, Halloween 2018 was only cost $10 million to make,
yeah.
and it had Jamie Lee Curtis in it. Um, and I think they spent 20 million on both Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Those $20 million, that's nothing. That's like, I mean, that doesn't even get you any actor in a Marvel movie.
Yeah. Not now it doesn't. A24's done some really good movies now that I'm like scrolling through here.
Yeah,
Um,
they're kind of the newer Miramax, but they do have a heavier focus on horror, which I like too, like
A24?
highbrow horror. Yeah.
A24 did obviously everything everywhere all at once. It did Lady Bird, Moonlight, those aren't horror movies. Uncut
No, no.
Gems. Uh,
But they also did, I think, Hereditary, Midsummer.
did
Uh,
they?
I think so.
I don't think so.
Uh,
What
X,
year
I
what
think
year did
X.
those come out?
Uh,
They don't have any of those movies listed in their
oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else then. Um, Let me look here real quick.
because they've done some stuff on television.
Yeah, Midsummer's A24.
Oh, why don't I see it listed on their
It came out in
in their here,
2019.
let me look at their bigger list here.
X, Pearl, which are sequels to each other. Midsummer,
Oh yeah, I see it. I
Hereditary.
see it all now. I didn't click on the entire
Gotcha. Yeah.
I had to click a different link to open up their entire list.
So
So yeah, I mean they've done a mix of a lot of different stuff.
it's a mix, yeah. But there's quite a few of their horror films have been quite good in my opinion. I
Yeah,
love
but
Hereditary.
they are
With
an
the vocal
independent
cast.
film company. They're a privately owned film company.
Right. They're not part of the big studio now,
Yeah,
but they're making movies that are getting recognition with other studio films.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh,
But
which I guess is
so
kind of like Miramax was back in the '90s.
yeah, so I mean there is the possibility we could see some kind of comeback for independent cinema, but it's highly unlikely. It's
Yeah,
never going to be like. I think the '90s were like the last big hurrah for independent
right.
cinema.
Which is also sad because really independent cinema didn't really even start till the late '60s.
Yeah,
I guess every film that was made in the early 1920s was independent because there really wasn't studios then. But
well
you know,
there wasn't a studio, but there was like I forgot what the name of it
studios
was. It was like
they were
one.
called themselves studios, but
It
they were
was like
just
there was like one big conglomerate that you had to like be part of to release movies.
right,
And if you weren't part of that conglomerate, you were independent or
right.
considered independent. And that was even like the very early 1900s. Um, shit, why was it? What was the name of it? It was like the Edison something was the name of it.
Uh,
I'm
I don't know.
I'm drawing a blank on what it was called, but yeah, you had to really like be part of that to release movies, and people did release movies outside of it,
But yeah, you don't see the rise of like modern independent cinema until, like I said, like the 1960s. We started getting films like Easy Rider,
yeah,
made on no money with no studio
yeah,
interference at all.
movies that had like huge success.
Right, right. So really,
The
independent
Edison
cinema
Trust. I'm
only.
sorry, the Edison Trust is what I was trying to think of.
Gotcha. Um, so yeah, I mean, you didn't really have independent cinema for more than 30 years, really.
Yeah,
Out of cinema itself is what, about 100, 110 years old,
yeah.
give or take.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, maybe 115 at the high end.
Yeah. Well, so in 1908, the Motion Picture Parents Company, which was also called the Edison Trust, was formed.
Okay,
And it was like the conglomerate that controlled cinema.
gotcha.
So you had to be if you weren't part of that, then you were independent.
Right.
So that was 1908. So a little over 110 years,
Yeah.
115 years.
Yeah. So
I guess that was about 115 years, right?
yeah, well, we're
Yeah.
in 2023 now, so you know, uh, yeah, I don't know. I think, I guess the more I think about it, there are some still independent films that are coming out that are making money, but just not like it was. The '90s just seemed like that golden era of independence,
Absolutely.
independent films, and
It seemed
I think
like
that's more of what I'm missing, because I think it still exists. It's just not like it was. I mean, hell, even like Tarantino would be considered. He came out of that like independent film,
yeah.
'90s independent film era. It just, and he's
It
one of
seemed
our
like it
greatest
seemed like in the
filmmakers of all
90s
time.
people were really like looking for that next great independent movie.
Yeah, yeah. Like there
That's not
was
the case anymore. Now they're
no
looking for the next great superhero
franchise.
movie or
Well,
franchise.
franchise. It doesn't have to be a superhero. Just they want the next billion-dollar franchise.
Yeah.
You know, that they can pump out sequel after sequel, and you know good or bad, because like I said, I'm not arguing with that. I like that. I'm a franchise guy. I'm a genre guy, so
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm cool with that. But sometimes I like a you know little fanciness with my meat and potatoes, a little spice to, and I don't know, just make it more interesting.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I was trying to look and see, like, in 2023, would a movie like The Usual Suspects get made?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah. I don't even think a Pulp Fiction could get made in 2023.
Probably not.
You know.
Uh, but you look at the cast of The Usual Suspects. I mean,
And some of
yeah, I
those
mean
were
they
bigger names even at the time,
yeah,
but
but
not
like
huge.
no, none of them were huge. That was a great fucking movie. I was trying to look and see who made that movie actually, or
Bryan
what.
Singer.
No. I mean like
Oh, it's studio.
yeah, what studio it was.
Yeah, because Bryan
TriStar.
Singer's. I'm not even sure if TriStar's still around necessarily. Yeah, I mean, it got bought out
That's
by.
what's listed under.
Yeah, I think TriStar. Oh, TriStar was part of Columbia, and I don't know what Columbia is part of now.
Yeah, Polygram Entertainment. So
That's what
I mean,
now, or
so
what was.
what it was.
Okay.
So I mean, it was, but like no one's making movies like that nowadays. I
No.
mean, they are, but it's not like that. It's more like I don't know. It's different.
The other thing too is what we haven't mentioned is a lot of studios are putting their money into television too, streaming television shows,
Yeah.
long form storytelling, which again is fine, but you know you're not going to get independent films out of that.
No.
Although that's a good place for young directors to cut their teeth, but you still run the risk of not having that guerrilla filmmaking education that
Yeah.
some of those early filmmakers had. So I don't know. I think it's
It just
scary, but it's also like it's not hopelessness,
yeah. I I I guess the way I kind of look at it as like on big picture is the fact that you know I think it's unfortunate that uh you know younger directors and filmmakers have kind of lost that sandbox to play in.
Right, right. And yeah, they're forced to again cut their teeth in the corporate studio
Yeah.
sandbox right from the beginning. Not get that early ability to express themselves artistically for good or for bad.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of independent films that sucked too.
Oh,
To
absolutely.
be fair, so they weren't
Yeah, it's
all
not like
gems.
they weren't all Goodwill Hunting, it's
No. Hell, most of them weren't even clerks.
yeah.
In terms of like highbrow.
Yeah.
Although I
But
consider the first clerks to be quite highbrow,
yeah.
relatively speaking.
Well, no, it's just like I said, it's one of those things I'd like to see come back around. But I don't know. You got anything else to really add to it there, Ian? Or
No,
do you have
no.
any other points?
I'm an old man who longs
What?
for the glory days of my teen years, and
Yeah.
with they don't make them like they used to.
Shake your
Damn
fist at
you,
the clouds.
clouds!
Yeah. But any questions or comments, you can email us at entnowpod@gmail.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Drop us a comment down below, all that YouTube-y kind of stuff. And make sure you go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whoever it is, and leave us a nice 5-star review. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. I mean,
That'd
you
be nice.
give us
Happy,
5 stars out of pity.
happy thoughts.
Yeah. You do the happy thoughts, I'll shake my fist at the clouds.
But well, that's all I got, man. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the rain.